Hi, this is Lewis, and I wanted to talk about the trial of George Floyd and not George Floyd, but David Chauvin. And man, so like a lot of things here, but the public outroar and everything, like it's justified for sure. Like we shouldn't put up with any sort of unnecessary violence and unnecessary death. But yeah, it's really disturbing to watch. The state task individuals to violently quell social economic problems, and when things get violent, to see that uh, the state and the state-run media whip up the mob to push some sort of narrative, um, you know, for political power is very disturbing. And I'm going to try to say this in some sort of meaningful, articulate way. Right? I'm just trying to get this out here, though. Is that what killed George Floyd? Was a combination of factors, but it's the war on drugs. Like, this George Floyd Act, police reform, and all this stuff, and this cry, no justice, no peace. Well, it's in the war on drugs, and it's as simple as that. And the fact that BLM and all these things, these organizations are controlled opposition, and yes, they're filled with great people. You, the you know these organizations are created and good people fill them. Like, what was my problem with Greenpeace? When I was working with Greenpeace in my early 20s, these are amazing people. Some real, like, heroic activists work with Greenpeace, and but it's controlled opposition, and you could see why, like, the founder of Greenpeace broke away, started Sea Shepherds and all that, but or one of the co-founders, but like, it's simple. In the war on drugs, why don't they want to end the war on drugs, and why is the narrative so tightly controlled, so that it's just this get the populace against each other. You know, it's it's really simple. There's a whole bunch of reasons why we continue a war on drugs, for geopolitical gains around the world. We like the destabilization factor in South America of having these narco states. We also our intelligence apparatus, like the CIA. They're able to actually run the drugs into the country, and use drug money to fund their black ops projects, so they don't need to get government, so they can have no congressional oversight over some of their projects. That's one of the ways that Congress has oversight of our secret programs, and our intelligence agencies through the budget. And so if the CIA wants to do things that are technically illegal under U.S. law, they have to get funding elsewhere. So we've been seeing this since the 70s, that the CIA is running drugs into this country. They're notorious for it. We know they're doing it, and they're still doing it. Yeah. So, the real solution, the real justice would be to end the war on drugs. And the fact that the state is turning this into, anything but in the war on drugs. Reorganize all of society, but don't cut off our control over, South America, and don't cut off our control over urban poor people. It's very, very disturbing. More thoughts on this is, I've been reflecting on the trial of the soldiers involved in the Boston massacre of, I think it was 1770. These are foot soldiers who were, attacked, or they attacked protesters, uh, and the public wanted to see these people hung. There was no political willpower and the whole city was an uproar. There was no political willpower to save these, to give these people a fair trial, really. But John Adams, and this is one of the amazing things about the American Revolution, was that we had these great leaders, and really this, like, people talk about George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, and what their contributions, and they're interesting people, and but like Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and John Adams, these guys, these three, I mean, they're writing the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and Declaration of Independence, and these guys were powerful characters. The emphasis on individual liberty, I mean, everything there is so liberating, so powerful. And if you look at what John Adams did in representing these soldiers and making it clear that hanging these men would not bring about American independence, hanging the foot soldiers of an empire is not going to stop the empire. You know what I mean? So it's so crazy to see. It's really sad to see us go from the start of this country, where we would anger an entire city to prove, to, like, for conscience, to promote individual freedom, and I think we've just gone so far away from it. You can see that here we go, like, a foot soldier in the war on drugs is being convicted basically because of mob rule, and when the mob gets what they want, it's mostly just those who control the flow of information, right? And it's the state that's winning. It was the state against David Chauvin, or Daniel Chauvin. It was the state that won, and it's the state that is pursuing this war on drugs, which is the real systemic racism in this country. And I find the whole Black Lives Matter movement to be controlled opposition. And there's some great people that are in that organization, like I mentioned, but, like, it's controlled opposition. The only thing, if you want to, we got economic subjugation due to this banking empire that runs our monetary system. The Federal Reserve is a branch of the Bank of London, which works with the BIS, which is the Central Bank of Central Banks in Switzerland. And if you're involved in politics and you don't know any of this, there's a reason for it, and that reason is disturbing. It's because the information that we're given is to steer us to these conclusions, these foregone conclusions, basically on a flow chart, to navigate us into this controlled opposition. The system's never going to give you the tools to overthrow the system itself, and that's why it becomes very important to be a constant student of history, and because we're not superior to our ancestors. We have a little more technology, but people have been dealing with these situations of tyrannical government and oligarchs, and using the mob to intimidate their rivals and to get what they want. And I think there's no clearer example of what's happening in America right now than what happened in Nazi Germany. The silencing of opposition, the getting rid of the police, getting rid of guns out of the hands of the people, and stirring up the mob to really get to intimidate and get what you want, and intimidate the courts, intimidate the people. So, I'm hoping there's an appeal process and the truth comes to light. But, if we were honest with ourselves, we would end the war on drugs. That would be the mantra. It wouldn't be white fragility. It wouldn't be white privilege. It wouldn't be black versus white. Which is I could go into depth about how skewed and fucked up that whole narrative is. And it's not. If we go to war with Russia, right? It'll be the Russian people fighting the American people. But the American people, we're not odds with the Russian people. It is our government. It's our governments that are at odds with each other. And over what? Over geopolitical leverage and nonsense. The foot soldiers in these wars are the ones that pay all the costs, and innocent bystanders aside, it's not the soldiers that are the problem. It's not even the generals. It's the whole system. It's the machine. The machine is broken. And I'm not saying tear down society. I'm not saying be an anarchist, but I'm saying know your history and understand that what has happened before will happen again, particularly if we don't learn from our past. It's hard, and it's so crazy. People just don't have the patience to reflect and understand. They enjoy their thin veil of logic that they use to justify their complacency. So I'm deeply disturbed by what's happening, but I'm not surprised, and it seems to be the parting of the ways between it seems the parting ways between those of us who respect individual liberty and freedoms, and the mob that's controlled by the corporate oligarchs. All right, this is Lewis. Best of luck to everyone.